Hello, YouTube. Lizzie B here. Almost got here early because I just couldn't wait to do my live podcast YouTube today because I have so many things on my mind. But hopefully this is a good Sunday morning starting you guys off. I'm still trying to get over the R. Kelly documentary. The last part of it played yesterday. And my mind is still there. I almost thought about changing my video today to talk about that because it really just weighed on my mind. For many of you who don't know who that is, R. Kelly is a R&B music artist who was popular, who became popular and famous in the 90s. And he is known to be a pedophile. Like, I did a video about him, or not really about him, but I did a video about cults because now he has like a cult and he's sex trafficking young girls. And so I did a video talking about how many of the ways that he, recruits girls and trains them and does, just the things that he does. A lot of it is taken from the handbook of what many cults do when they take advantage of people, or when they take advantage of vulnerable, naive people. I mean, but the thing about this documentary, it was a 6-part documentary. The last part of it aired last night. And it was so disturbing, like super duper disturbing. And for me, the most disturbing part of that documentary was all of the people that were complicit in what he was doing to those girls. Like, there were so many people. This man had a village, you know what I mean, helping him. Everybody was helping him to recruit these girls. They're finding girls for him to take on stage. They're blocking the girls off from their families. Some of the men that weren't even really helping. Like, there was one man that had forged documents so he could marry a 14-year-old, 15-year-old girl, Aaliyah, the singer. But even the men that weren't actively helping him were complicit in that they allowed it to go on in their presence. Some of the people in the interviews were like talking about how he would do something that was a little, sleazy, or just have girls around and it was weird. And like, in the interview, they're like, I didn't think that was right. And I'm like, you were there. It was happening in your presence. You know what I mean? It's sad. And I feel like men have got to do better. I mean, women have to do better for sure, but men have got to do better. Like, this man he was raping children, and just nothing but men around this man protecting him, allowing him to do that. It's just, honestly, it was a documentary about R. Kelly and how sick he was. But for me, it was hard to not look at it and see all of the men that helped him, all of the people that stood around and giggling and sniveling and, shifty-eyed and, ooh, this is bad, but not stopping him. He was a monster and nobody stopped this man. Now we have all of the things about him coming to light, which is good. And I'm happy about that. But it's interesting because now I'm starting to see all of the whataboutisms on the internet. And I'm sorry, I'm going to get to the topic of this video, but I'm still talking about the R. Kelly thing for those of you who are just stepped into the chat or whatever. But yeah, it really, really bothered me. Like, watching that documentary, and it's a shame that it came on so late at night because I had to go to sleep after. I had like a ton of dreams. I don't even remember the dreams really, but I just remember waking up with the thought that we have seen, and, in this sense, I am talking about as a Black person, I can say that we're seeing an ugly side to ourselves, and it's not Um, it's not pretty. You know what I mean? It's not pretty. It's scary and needs work. We can't support people that do this to our community. We can't support people that do this. And R. Kelly had, a lot of support, a lot of support. Um, my husband is from Chicago, and he was talking about how he can't even get on social media without seeing all of these, people that he grew up with, and talking about how, you know, well, there's Harvey Weinstein, there's Woody Allen, what about them? And trying to deflect away from R. Kelly and trying to, make it like, oh, y'all trying to make black men look bad. And like he says that there's so many R. Kelly defenders that he couldn't even get on Facebook. I'm disgusted. And I knew, I did that video about it. I think that I did that video last year. And so I know about R. Kelly. I knew about R. Kelly, but this documentary went into a lot of detail. If you're not triggered by something like this, I suggest you check it out. If it's not going to be mentally harmful to you, check it out, because it's really important. And it really goes to show you how far we've come as a society, but how much further we need to go. So, that said, let's get into this. Today's topic, I want to talk about mental health. One thing that I notice when I do a lot of my Jehovah's Witness videos is that I get a ton of really long comments, really long comments. And, it's always a lot of everything's in all caps. It's a lot of exclamation points. It's a lot of misspelled words in the wrong order, letters missing. And on top of that, it's always these long conspiracy theories. And I'm bringing that up in this video because I'm not saying that this is particular and specific to Jehovah's Witnesses or people that were Jehovah's Witnesses, but when I see it, to me, it's very much a red flag. And I think it's something worth talking about, because I feel like there are so many people that leave the religion, but they continue in a certain mindset that's very, very similar to the mindset that many Jehovah's Witnesses have when they're in the organization. And that is this hanging on to conspiracies and new information. And you know what I mean? Like, to me, it's a red flag, and it shows that someone may be a bit disturbed. And I feel like there's a lot of us that have certain elements of that, even though, we're trying to function in society and we're trying to get back to our lives. But in many instances, there's a lot of things that hang on from the religion. And I do believe that when I see those comments, immediately, it's troubling to see them. I barely read them. A lot of times YouTube filters out those kind of comments so that I don't even see them in the first place. But when I do see them, when they do slip through, it's really, really disturbing. And they're always so similar that you would think that it's the same person. And I wonder about that sometimes. I'm like, what is it about conspiracy theories that makes people want to type in all caps? What, like, do they hit the all caps button by accident? But if that's the case, some of the words aren't in all caps, some are, and then most of the words are in all caps. It's always this weird, like, manic typing that you can literally see in how the person writes comments out. But I gave it a lot of thought when I first started YouTube. Because I started getting those comments all the time. And, and that was when I started to see that there were comments that were being held for review and that kind of thing. And so I would go and check them out. I used to read them, and that was its own thing altogether. But I wondered, and I thought to myself, what would make anybody commit to such a long, stream of consciousness? And then on top of that, a lot of it was really, really fantastical in that it was, like scary. It sounded like somebody was typing out the book of Revelations and stuff. So I would get a lot of those kind of comments. And I always wondered why. And I gave it some thought. A lot of times you just got to meditate on things and try, and the answer will come to you. And I gave it some thought. And when we were Jehovah's Witnesses, we were literally just attending meetings to hear these long conspiracies. Conspiracies about the Bible and made up conspiracies about the government that even the people that were creating these conspiracies didn't believe. When I think about the United Nations thing, Jehovah's Witnesses were a part of the United Nations. And they went and lied and tried to say that they needed to use the library, which is okay, but whatever. But at the end of the day, like we went to meetings 3 times a week and listened to conspiracies for hours on end, hours, 2 hours on Sunday, 1 hour on Thursday. And missing the other, and then the theocratic ministry school, so you can learn how to teach other people conspiracy theories. So it was constant with the conspiracies, and it was all based around the Bible. But at the end of the day, it was literally a religion based on lies, which are linked together. And when you got a bunch of lies linked together that make people feel like their lives are in danger and all of that kind of thing, you're talking to somebody who is being fed conspiracies. And one thing about me, I mean, you guys all notice I used to work in news. And I talk about this quite a bit because I really feel like my news background has informed so much of how I see the world, and I didn't expect it to do that to such a high degree. But especially nowadays, where we got Trump in office, and you have a lot of right-wing people who are really into the conspiracies, and immigrants are going to do this to us, and everything's going to blah blah blah. We're always in danger, and we always can't do anything about it. We're always powerless and in danger and waiting for this big outside force. And so when I worked in news, I had to learn. I mean, I went to school for journalism and media and whatever and entertainment. And so we have to learn how to manipulate people's emotions. And I mean, of course, we're not saying that. It's not like I took a class and learned how to manipulate people's emotions class, but I did take some classes that told us about how a tease works in news. So you do the tease, and then you do the story, and then you do the kicker, and there's a number of terms that we use to pretty much let us know how we're manipulating people's emotions. So you tease them with coming up next on such and such news channel, and then you kind of milk that, you know what I mean? And so news is a kind of quick and easy way to get information, but it's also, relies on people's instincts to listen to things that might put them in danger. And so we played on that. And I've talked about this before in my videos. That's what news does. They play on it. So me personally, as someone that worked in news, I don't watch a lot of news now that I don't work in news anymore. I don't, because I know what the jig is up for me. You know what I mean? I know what they're trying to do. I don't get my, panties in a bunch when I see breaking news anymore. And now everything is breaking news. So I really see that, maybe news has reached its threshold at this point and people are over it or desensitized. But for me, when somebody starts to tell a story, I can tell if it's a story or if it's real information that I should be concerned about. And when after I worked in news and when I started going back to the Kingdom Hall, some of the stories, some of the conspiracies, I stopped being able to remember. Whereas when I was younger, when I was a kid, I kind of remembered some stuff, but I was too young to kind of process it. But as an adult, I would hear things and I would kind of decide in my mind what was important to my everyday life, what I wanted to believe, what I wanted to focus on. But I remember that there were a lot of Jehovah's Witnesses that I went to the Kingdom Hall with that hung on to every single story as if it was gospel. Everything was true. Everything was, like, we got to be careful about this. And there were some friends that took it to an extreme that even when I think about it now, it's disturbing. I remember there was a sister that went to our congregation, and she was afraid of the computer or something. I forget what it was, but it's like she never wanted to be in front of a computer because of the whatever. I don't know. And she was constantly trying to tell us about how, like, when we go outside, the poles are listening to us or whatever, like the telephone poles are listening, and like eavesdropping, and like it was a progression that I saw, and I thought it was disturbing, and it showed me that there's a lot of people who kind of keep that conspiracy going, it's like a snowball effect. So when you're listening to the conspiracies, when you're listening to the conspiracies at the Kingdom Hall, you don't realize how much it opens you up for more conspiracies and more conspiracies and more conspiracies. And then, one of the things that I found to be disheartening when I went to the Kingdom Hall was how much these conspiracies left people feeling very powerless. So, it's always waiting on Jehovah. And there's a lot, in a lot of Christian churches, people feel that way too. Everybody's waiting for the Messiah, waiting for something, you know what I mean? Waiting, waiting. And because they didn't feel like they had the power to fight whatever it was themselves. And everything was so big, everything was so whatever. And so when you start to get into that mindset, it's easy for you to be controlled, because there's this nihilistic type of thinking that kind of takes over, where you're like, nothing matters because I can't do anything about anything anyway. But there's also this fear of impending doom because you're waiting for all of these horrible things to happen. That does not put you in a good place mentally. And there are people who wake up from the religion and immediately they're like, I've woken up. Everything was a lie, but here's the truth. And then they're giving you more conspiracies that they've gotten from somewhere else. There's been a number of people who have commented on my videos who left the Jehovah's Witnesses and went straight to Fox News. I've seen quite a bit of that. And it's really, really surprising. It was at first anyway. It was surprising to me at first. But it makes perfect sense, because if you don't have somebody constantly feeding you those conspiracies, these outlandish conspiracies that make you hate everybody else and feel only close to them, and we got to stick together and the world is out to get us. If you don't have that, you're going to look for it, or somebody's going to find it, or you're going to be vulnerable to that. So many of us leave the organization and we're still vulnerable because we don't realize that we've become addicted to conspiracies, constantly hearing new information. And, a lot of these conspiracies are really, really, they open your mind up to really negative and horrible possibilities. And after a while, it stops becoming possibilities and it becomes inevitable. So you're creating this reality of negativity and you're waiting on it, which means you're willing it to yourself. So, I've noticed that quite a bit, and it's always kind of bothered me, always made me wonder, how vulnerable I am to that. And so I watch the information that I take in. I watch how I react to things. I make sure that I'm not, if somebody tells me something, because I used to be like that too, to be honest. Like if somebody said something, I would be like, oh, really? And I'm going to hold on to that. And, but the thing about me is that if I believe something, I believe it. I'm extreme in the sense that I will take action. So, somebody had this example, not somebody had an example, but like, I'll give you an example. That there was this rumor, I think, going around on Fox News or whatever in conservative circles about Hillary Clinton being part of some child sex trafficking ring under a pizza joint in New York. And a lot of people really, really, gravitated to that. And they're like, this sex ring and blah, blah, blah. And, a lot of conservatives, voters have believed that. And so something happened, and some dude came down to the pizza place and he had a gun. And he was like, I'm going to bring this to an end. And when I think about that story, I think about the fact that all of these people thought that there was a sex trafficking ring, a child sex trafficking ring under a pizza place, but only one person thought to go down there and end it. And we're calling him crazy. Like, people were saying, oh, he's crazy, but when you think about it, if that was real and if people are really, really distraught about it, wouldn't it be crazy to not want to do something about it? You know what I mean? So I'm not saying that anybody that decides to do something on the basis of some conspiracy they heard is, right, and that we should all do that. But what I'm saying is that to me, it just seems like people don't really listen to conspiracies because they want to do anything about it. They listen to conspiracies because it gives them a high. It makes them feel like they learned new secret information that nobody else knows. And one of the reasons why you know that is because when people hear conspiracies, or if you're around a lot of people that tell conspiracies, and I used to be, but now my life has taken me in another direction, thank goodness. They can't wait to tell you new light, new information. You know what I mean? They can't wait to just spill the beans on this. You won't believe what I know, and only I know, only a few of us know. So that is the high that they get, and it goes down until they learn something new, and then they learn something new, and they can't wait to tell everybody. It could the new thing that they learned can even contradict the old thing that they had learned last week. But if it's new information, your adrenaline is going up. You can't wait to, oh my God, it makes so much sense. You can't wait for that. And that was, if it sounds familiar, that's because that's pretty much what many of us were subjected to, when it came to the Jehovah's Witnesses. But, I often think about the fact that there's so much information that people get when they buy into these conspiracies. And, I'm sorry, I'm reading Honest Conscious Davies. Someone in the state of Washington is pissed enough to go criminal on damaging and destroying Kingdom Halls. It'll be interesting to hear the story. And that's the thing. It's like, of who's behind those arsons. Yeah, I heard about those, and that's really scary that somebody went out and did that. And it's one of those things where it's chickens coming home to roost. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying that anybody deserves that. Nobody deserves to feel unsafe. That it's a terrible feeling. As a woman, I can attest to that. Nobody deserves to feel unsafe. But at the end of the day, the Jehovah's Witnesses, the Kingdom Halls are creating these monsters. They're creating people who, who feel this kind of outrage at what they spent their lives doing. And there are so many, people who've been harmed by this religion. So it makes sense that you're going to churn out some people who are more extreme than others. But at the end of the day, I think many of us who were given a lot of these conspiracies, they would kind of give us conspiracies that were so much bigger than us. So we felt powerless. So many of us, it's not like we were going to, go out and start, killing people who weren't Jehovah's Witnesses. Because at the end of the day, they gave us all these conspiracies, but then they told us, don't worry, Jehovah will take care of everything. You don't have to do anything. Just stand back and watch God work. And so many of us kind of felt powerless and scared about the future. And it's this ominous threat. But at the end of the day, we knew to not do anything. You know what I mean? If anything, we took less action than somebody living, outside of the religion. People would vote. People would, attend marches, try to make change. But with us, it was like, oh no, I'm afraid. And also we got to let God take over. He doesn't want us to do anything except feel sad about how horrible everything is and is going to be. And so that's a really damaging, is scary, and really unhealthy mindset. Sam thinks says, what percent of your congregation had nutty ideas? To be honest, Sam, I don't know. I don't know if your name is Sam, but I also don't know what percent of my congregation had nutty ideas. Because it's one of those things where it's what's the word? It kind of sneaks up on you, I guess, for lack of a better word. Like it's, I would have conversations with people and they seemed to be in their right mind, and then they would say something that sounded, tinfoil hat like, what I'm saying? They would say something that would make me be like, oh, okay. And but being that it was so normal, you stay in the organization, and you just ignore that comment and you move on. You go back to bringing it back to earth. Okay, are you going to the grocery store? I heard they have a sale on apples, blah blah blah. But at the end of the day, everybody was kind of saying and little things and falling into little things. So it was so normal that I couldn't tell you if I wanted to. I think it would be everybody if that was the case. But I do think that a lot of Jehovah's Witnesses are particularly susceptible to conspiracy theories, and especially the kind that are really negative, because the kind that are positive don't really do much for people. It doesn't give you much of a high. If I were to say, hey, guess what, guys, you're all awesome, everybody's gonna be like, number one, I don't believe you, and number two, like, so what? Who cares? You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, the conspiracies that are life threatening, that are scary, that are salacious, that make people feel like, oh my God, we were all gonna, die at any moment. The ticking time bomb conspiracies really get people going. You know what I mean? Even if the time bomb goes off, nothing happens, and we move on. For example, 1975. So that's what gets people going. And in order to get people to believe these conspiracies, you have to take away their power. You have to tell them that there's nothing they can do about it. They're powerless. This world is terrible. They should feel bad now. And guess what? It gets worse. And I had a conversation with a person that I was close to, and I still love them very much. They are a Jehovah's Witness, and they have been for, I want to say my entire life. I don't know, but all I know is that I had a conversation with them, and they kind of know that I'm out, but they don't really acknowledge it too much, because they know that once they do, they will no longer be allowed to talk to me. So we keep it at a very, generic conversation, and just, but I was talking to them the other day, and I had told them that I am happy. And she had replied with, by expressing confusion. Like, what do you mean happy? How can you be happy? And of course, she went right into the Jehovah's Witness, spiel of, I can't be happy when there's so much pain and suffering, and there's so much misery and sadness in this world. How can anybody be happy? I can't be happy until everyone is happy. And me, having been a Jehovah's Witness, and also knowing that line of thinking, immediately used it to my advantage. And this is something that I'm saying because I hope that, it worked for me. I don't know if it worked, but it worked for me. I'll put it like that. It worked on my end anyway, made me feel better. And maybe you guys can use the same line of thinking, or maybe you have. But as soon as she said that, kind of, not to say shaming me for being happy, because that didn't feel, it didn't feel like I was being shamed. She was just saying she personally can't be happy with the world and the condition that it is in. And I told her that with what she believes, about the news system and God restoring order to the world and so on and so forth, and new way of life and paradise on earth and blah blah blah. If that is real and inevitable and happen and going to happen, how can you not be happy? You know what I mean? If that is the future, if the future is so bright, this future of brightness, even though, I mean, to me now in hindsight and after I've left the organization, I understand that the like entire world dying except Jehovah's Witnesses is not a bright future. But I have to work with what she believes. So I said, if this world is going to be such a wonderful place, where in the Bible does it say that we're supposed to not be happy in anticipation of that? You know what I mean? And she had a hard time refuting what I'd said. And she, yeah, you make a good point. And so I told her that I'm making a choice to be happy. I said, I wake up and every day is not perfect. It's not always going to be, sunshine and butterflies. But at the end of the day, I'm making a choice to be happy. I have that kind of power to be the master of myself, my body, my spirit, my mind, all of those things. I have power. I'm taking back my power. And that is my power, is that I have a choice as to whether I want to be happy. I live in a very, very sunny state. It's beautiful outside. The beach is in my backyard. Not really, but you know what I'm saying. I have so many reasons to be thankful, grateful, gracious, and happy. And I am not going to spend my time making myself sad over something that I can't control if the future is going to be so bright anyway. So if my present is looking lovely, why would I walk around on the beach frowning and having a bad attitude when I can make a choice to appreciate what I have and to be happy, and then to appreciate the future that is supposed to be inevitable, right? If you really believe in this paradise on earth, then why are you miserable? So I took the Jehovah's Witness thinking, I flipped it flipped it to the other side and kind of, why wouldn't I be happy? You know what I mean? And that was a hard thing for her to refute. And hopefully it's something that, even though she has not left the organization, maybe it's something that will get the wheels turning. You know what I mean? Because I would rather someone be happy and a little bit healthier in their mindset while being a Jehovah's Witness if they're not going to leave. Because there's some people that will never leave. And that's one thing that we need to kind of all come to terms with. All of our families not going to leave. There's some people that's just going to stay. You know what I mean? But I would rather them not eat themselves mentally alive. And I think that's what it comes down to. So for that particular person, hopefully I kind of infused a new idea of making a choice to be happy into their mind. Who knows? But at the end of the day, all of these negative conspiracy theories about powerlessness and the world and Satan and the, dragon monster killing everybody is not healthy. And it takes different forms after many people leave. So I propose this to those of you who are watching to keep in mind that every time you hear new information, that think of yourself as someone that might be susceptible, because I had to do this for myself. I have to think to myself, I might be susceptible to a conspiracy. So let me chill out, digest this information, ask myself what power I have in this situation. And if I don't have any power over it, not to say that it doesn't matter, like, somebody's starving in this country, it doesn't matter. I'm just saying it's a shame. I will send whatever positive energy I can. And if there's anything within my realm of power that I can do, I will do it. And if there's not, I'm going to have to just move on. I gotta go. I gotta move on. I gotta move on. I can't be at level 10, blood pressure at level, 1,000,000, trying to tell everybody about blah, blah, blah. I can pass on the information. I can be calm about this. And I can understand that I'm not going to allow myself to get high off of new information. I'm going to, be calm about it. I'm going to understand what this person who may have told me this has to gain from doing it. Because sometimes people tell us stuff because they're high off of what they just learned. So we have to, um, I guess, filter the information that we've received. Understand that there are some bad things that are going to happen in this world, but that doesn't mean that we're all in this powerful hellscape that, or and we're powerless and there's nothing we can do and we don't have no choice and we have to be miserable. You don't have to do that. That is not something you have to do. It's a choice. Um, Watch the news if you want to learn local information. Watch it for a purpose. Don't watch it just to see how crappy the world is. If somebody tells you the world is this terrible place, you want to know all the details as to why, tell them no. Tell them that's quite all right. Or if you are going to listen to them, make sure that you are in a mindset that you're protecting your happiness, because you know, it's one of those, it's a snowball. It's one of those things that start small, but the more you start to feed yourself negative information that makes you feel like you don't have no control in the world, you are going to, end up sounding like those people with the foil hats talking about the trees are listening to you. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, nobody wants to look like that. Nobody wants to feel like that. It's embarrassing. It's shameful. It's weird from the outside in. So I'm just saying that I've been forced, in a sense, to kind of pay attention to how excited I get about information that to me, sounds like some secret horrible stuff. I used to really be into that kind of thing. I would look on YouTube and look at those videos too and all of that. And we would share that at our congregations and stuff. But in hindsight, I was feeding into that. And so I was susceptible, and I worked in news and I knew a lot of this stuff was fairy tales. So just beware of your mental health, your intake of information, how excited you might get about new information, and also pay attention to people who do that as well, and try to guide them back to earth, guide them back to, no, you have power. Every day we're all making a choice. Let's get back to, not to say everything's got to be happy all the time, but let's get back to reality. What can you do today? How can you be productive today? So, I mean, that's my message. I don't know. I don't have a script, you guys. I do this live every Sunday. But thanks for watching. Thanks for joining me. And I look forward to reading all these comments once I end this stream. But enjoy your Sunday, and I will talk to you next week. Also, one thing, if there's something in particular that you might want me to talk about, send me a message, or, put a comment on my video and let me know, because I just pick them as I go. And sometimes I don't know what to do. I don't know what to talk about, but that's what I talked about today. So, let me know, and have a great weekend. Bye.